the respective angle, and you are live with the one and only AJ is live. Ain't it ironic? All right, so as promised. Now, told you guys before, when I'm bringing content, I'm going to be bringing the content. That's just what it is. So, as promised, I told you guys on the last video that we're going to be interviewing none other than the CEO of the Dollaride Corporation, or Dollaride Incorporated, as he made sure and corrected me. So that's Dollaride Inc., not Dollaride Corp. So moving forward, as I said before, we had a discussion on what Dollaride is. That was the last video. So on this video, now we're going to actually find out who is the person that's behind Dollaride. And on today, we have none other than the owner, CEO, operator, the man himself, that's behind the Dollaride app. So we're going to introduce on today the one, the only, Sanni. Good afternoon, Sanni. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon, Aaron. Or should I call you AJ? You let me know.
I mean, whatever is comfortable for you, man. Whatever is comfortable for you. I mean, we personally know each other, so which whatever is comfortable for you, that's fine with me.
Bet. So I'm a stick with Aaron then.
All
But
right.
yo, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to get on the show to talk about Dollaride and my story and any other questions you have. So I'm hyped. Let's get into it.
All right. So let's get into it. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get into that right now. Who
Sure,
are
sure.
you?
But in fact, let me before I even hop into my story. Um, you introed and you mentioned that I'm the owner of Dollaride,
Right.
and that is true. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the other owner or owners of the company.
Oh, so there's
Um,
multiple.
yeah, we're a venture-backed technology company,
Hmm.
so that means we have investors,
Right.
and right now the majority ownership of the business is between me and my co-founder. He's another black man. His name is Chris Coles. Chris used to live here in New York. He's currently living in LA, but he's the big brains behind the operation, especially behind the technology. So I
Okay.
definitely gotta give Chris a shout out.
All right. So shout out to Chris Coles, the other partner on the Dollaride venture. Shout out to
Right,
you, the other
right.
CEO on the Dollaride app. Wherever you are, we giving you a shout out from right here on the respective angle show. So continue. Go ahead, Sue.
Bless. Yeah. So, a little bit about myself. I'm Sanni, but my full name is Sulaiman. Uh, but everyone has been calling me Sue for short for the longest. Um, I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, right across the street from the Pink Houses projects.
Very
I
historic
lived in
project.
yeah, I lived in Linden Plaza
Hmm.
up until I was about 16. And like many of us, I was just a young kid, trying to make his way in East New York. I come from a Nigerian family and background, so my parents they immigrated here from Nigeria. What I think back in the 70s, and they had my sister, me, and then my younger sister here as in America.
It's my favorite
So
country, by the way. Nigeria, Lagos. Shout out to Lagos. Go ahead.
yep. Shout out to Lagos. For all of y'all who haven't been, you gotta go. It's Lagos is popping right now. It
Yeah,
has been. So
I've been telling my
it's a
wife, man. Like she's always been interested. Like, why are you so interested in African stuff? I'm like, yo, listen, it goes way back. Is that Nigerian connection, man? That Nigerian connection.
most deaf. In fact,
Definitely.
there's a strong chance that most of us black people have some lineage that goes back to West Africa and more likely the Nigeria region. So I encourage everybody to go back at some point and feel what it's like to not be in the minority, especially for those of us here in the U.S.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little bit about myself and the family. Um, I grew up in in East New York, Brooklyn, but at one point my family moved to Jamaica, Queens,
Hmm.
and that's where my parents currently live right now. I was living at home for about a year or 2 years after I graduated from college, and it was around that time where I really started to get into dollar vans and started using them on a daily basis just to go to work.
Right.
So that's probably where the story starts turning into now the dollar ride story.
Hmm. So that's a perfect segue into your whole entire Dollaride app. Now that we have gotten there. So
Hmm.
what is the Dollaride, and tell us how it works?
Sure. So I'll first start by making sure everybody is on the same page of what dollar vans are.
Right.
And then I think from there you'll get a better idea of what the Dollar Ride app does.
So I'll give the viewers a little bit of a background history of what Dollar Van is. So
Perfect.
pretty much Dollar Van has been in existence over a 30-year period now. It started back in the late 80s, I believe it was, and that started around at the time of a transit strike when there were no transportation available, i.e., MTA. That's the times that the MTA transit strike was around, and I believe it was one or two West Indian people. I believe it was they. Well, the argument today is it was a Trinidadian, it was a Jamaican. It doesn't really matter. That's the argument. Like everybody has that argument up to this day. Like the argument is it was a Trinidadian guy that started it, and the other half says it was a Jamaican guy that started it. But all in all, the whole point is that this this individual saw the vital need for transportation within the East Flatbush community and within Brooklyn. So this individual started an idea, which is starting rides for, I believe it was 75 cents back in those days. Am I right, Sushani? Because you are the dollar van historian as well.
You are. I think you're right. For the most part, and I've heard similar stories. There definitely is a bit of controversy around like who started it.
Mm-hmm.
Who was out there back in the '80s.
Yeah.
But I think to be honest, we got to give credit to all of the young guys who were entrepreneurial back then, and had the guts to just put their own money up, buy vehicles,
Right.
and start transporting friends, family members, and people in their community to wherever they needed to go.
Right.
So I have a couple of uncles who've been a part of the industry since the '80s. They are somewhat affiliated with like the OGs in the game, like Hector Ricketts
Right.
and Leroy Morrison. Um,
You got to
so
give these guys. You listen, when you calling these names, man, you got to give the company names at the side too. Now,
true, true.
Hector Ricketts, he operates a commuter van service out of Queens that's called Community. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's Community Transportation Lines, I believe it is.
Community Transportation Services,
Community
CTS.
Transportation Services, right? That's a commuter van services that's based out of Queens. And then
Yep.
Mr. Leroy, he is the owner of Alexis Van Lines as well as Pebbles. And that
Correct.
is a commuter van service that is based out of Brooklyn that runs along the avenues of Flatbush and Utica Avenue.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And then you have my uncles who represent City Link and City Express. So
Right.
that's Queens and Brooklyn, respectively, or mostly Queens, I think, at these days. But back in the days, it was these guys and probably a few others who were really the pioneers of the whole dollar van movement.
Exactly.
Um, and when I talk to people about like why dollar vans exist in New York, and what they represent, especially culturally. I always try to give homage to the countries where our comrades come from.
And that's where
You know,
these
in,
right. Go ahead. We're
yeah,
going on the right path.
in Nigeria we have the same type of system, but we call them Danfo buses.
Right.
And I know in Jamaica, you folks have robos or robo taxis,
Mm-hmm.
which is somewhat similar. But all around the world, in the emerging markets, we got some type of dollar van type of transportation system. So I just think it's genius, and it's just commendable that immigrants like our fathers and our uncles and all that. They figured that they could make a buck here in New York City doing the same things that they saw back in their home country.
Right.
So that's the big shout out that we got to give to the OGs.
Of course, for sure. And all right, so now that we have gotten that out of the way, now that we have gotten the history of what
Hmm.
dollar van or commuter van, as some would say, is. So moving forward, now that we done got that out the way, it's knocked out. What is the Dollaride app now? Like, what does it do? What does it consist of? What,
That
like, what came? What made it? What? All right, now that we know that what made it came about, what is the app about?
Sure. So um, the Dollar Ride app is basically a digital tool that dollar van drivers can use to open up the market and essentially make more money. Um, Now, what the app does is it allows drivers for the first time to be able to collect fares or payments for rides through credit cards
Mm-hmm.
without any hardware. So, right from the app, a passenger can pay their fare digitally, and charge their credit card or a payment source on file, and that money goes right into the driver's account, which they can withdraw into their bank account.
Is
But
there
more
any
importantly,
Is there any fees? Drivers, they'll definitely, or anyone for that matter, they'll ask about that.
oh,
Is there any fees involved in this? Like, are there any fees?
so there are credit card processing fees, but Dollar Ride covers the cost of that.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whenever drivers use our app, they're not going to lose any money than the money that they are already used to getting.
Hmm.
Our whole goal is to make sure that drivers get more money in their pockets at the end of the day. So, that starts with covering the cost of fees,
Hmm.
especially on the existing routes, the routes that have been around for years. We internally at our company we call them legacy routes.
Right.
So, usually the fare is around $2.
Hmm.
So even when a passenger uses the Dollar Ride app, we make sure that the driver gets his $2. And
Regardless
if
of
that
what, the
means
driver gets his $2.
correct, correct.
Okay,
But
that's
the
very
real,
good.
the most powerful aspect of the app and what we're really trying to do is expand the dollar van system around New York City. And really, the way to do that is by making dollar vans as a service popular and available to anyone in the outer boroughs. Right now, the only way people know about dollar vans is if they heard about dollar vans from their parents or their friends or through word of mouth.
Right.
Because
It's a
there's no
generation thing.
signage, there's no advertising, there's no promotion.
Right.
But you know, because Dollar Ride is a technology company and we're not actually drivers, we have to partner with the drivers. We take on all the burden of doing the marketing and then the promotion. So, we focus on creating new routes, and on those new routes, we want to bring the same dollar van drivers who've been hustling on Flatbush and on Utica and on Guy Brewer and Queens. We want to give them the opportunities to open up the market and bring on more passengers that have never used dollar vans before. So our app makes that possible because we promote the service in new neighborhoods, and then we digitally create and display the routes in the app for the driver to see and for the passenger to see.
That is amazing. Okay, so let's say for the passengers, right? How does it
Hmm.
benefit the passengers?
Great question. Um, so the the clearest benefit is for passengers who are not familiar with dollar vans. So I like to start there. You know, if you go to anyone in New York City, especially outside of the communities like East Flatbush and Jamaica Queens, where dollar vans are popular, if you ask anybody what is a dollar van or have you heard of a dollar van, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna look at you with a blank face.
Sure.
And that's because dollar vans are very insular. Only the people who live in these communities like we do
Right.
are familiar with them. Um,
True.
so for someone who hears about dollar vans for the first time, it's really, really difficult to access a dollar van, to get on one, because you don't know where the route is, you don't know how the service works. Someone will literally have to physically show you and talk to you about how to use this service and what to expect when you get on the van. Are there stops, or do you yell at the driver and tell them where you want to get off? Is it rude to do that? These things we take for granted because we grown up with dollar vans, but I've seen people struggle with this system when they aren't familiar with it. So for new passengers, and especially when we create new routes, we completely erase all of that anxiety and all that uncertainty about using dollar vans. We make it transparent through the app how the process works, where and how you can tell the driver where you want to get off,
Hmm.
how long it's going to take for the driver to get to you, and how long it'll take for you to get to your end destination. So, if anyone has used Uber or Lyft before, the same type of features and transparency that you see in those apps, we're
Hmm.
trying to bring that same experience to dollar vans.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, is it as user friendly as the Uber and Lyft apps? That was going to be the next question, but you answered that question very rather fast, so I guess I don't have to ask you that anymore. All right.
Yeah.
So, next question. Well, you already answered how does the Dollar Ride app benefit the drivers. So, what do you think is the future of the dollar van industry, especially considering the fact that we we all know that the COVID-19 or coronavirus has been spreading from about the beginning of the year, and
Hmm.
it's taken a little bit. It has decreased quite a bit. But how do you know? Is it affecting the dollar ride industry in any way, or is it affecting you guys in any sense of the word? Or
It has, to be honest, really significantly.
and how
But
so?
yeah, well, so first, when the pandemic, really became serious, and we started going into social distancing and working from home and all that in March, ridership on dollar vans and all public transit went to nearly zero.
Right.
Right? Most drivers stopped working, either because there weren't passengers out there, or because they were just concerned for their own health, which they rightfully should be. So, dollar van activity was like to a screeching halt. It was nada, nothing going on outside. Now,
And it
I've
still kind of is right
noticed,
now a little bit.
yeah, it's still roughly the same. I think, things are starting to tick back up a little bit.
A little bit.
I was on Flatbush literally maybe 2 weeks ago, and I saw like four different dollar vans go by. Um, but that was $4 vans over the course of like 45 minutes,
Did you see
as
any people?
opposed to as opposed to how it usually is, where you'll see $4 vans in 10 minutes,
Right.
right? So you already know that there aren't as many drivers out there, and therefore the pandemic is still real. So, the way this affected Dollar Ride was twofold. One, we couldn't really do the work that we wanted to do and that we planned to do, especially on the legacy routes
Hmm.
throughout the spring. So that really pushed back our whole timeline and the impact that we were trying to make in the community. We had to basically stop working, at least on the legacy routes. So that was a negative for sure. That was a big L.
Hmm.
But the positive was that we saw a huge spike in interest from companies, from corporations and organizations that now want to use dollar vans as like a private shuttle service
Mm.
for their employees or people that are in their neighborhoods or in their communities. So this is where I think part of the future of dollar vans will be,
Hmm.
where basically, instead of a driver or a group of drivers going out to East New York and trying to create a whole new route by themselves, we should be partnering with companies who want to use dollar vans for their employees, but we get those companies to cover the cost of opening up a new route.
Mm.
Um, this is what I figured out over the last few months, and it's been working well at Dollaride. We've landed several clients that are corporations in New York City, as well as a government agency
Wow.
um, that is now open to using dollar vans in our app as a way of providing transportation service. So I think this is part of the future, for us and for everyone who's in part of dollar vans.
That is amazing. So let's talk about like the outside opportunities for the drivers, other than
Hmm.
having to do, let's say, the legacy routes and stuff like that. Like, let's discuss that. Like, what other opportunities are there for the drivers per se for Dollar Ride from Dollar Ride?
You know, I'd like to think that the opportunities are endless, but let's just talk about the things that we are executing on right now, like the stuff that we already have in the pipeline and signed, sealed, and delivered,
Right.
and then we can talk about like the future as well. So first and foremost, like I said, uh, we have these like corporate contracts. We call them enterprise routes.
Mm.
Um, but essentially, if a company wants to work with Dollaride and they say, hey, we have 200 employees that we want to shuttle back and forth from home to the office, can you help us out? We create a whole new route for that company, and then we will go hire or essentially contract commuter van drivers
Hmm.
to work on that route. And in this scenario, the income for the driver is significant. For one, when you're working with companies, they are completely fine with charging $3 a fare, $4 or $5 a fare,
Hmm.
as opposed to only $2.
Right.
And then on top of that, usually, so that's just coming from the passengers. But then also the corporations, they will also pay Dollaride, a flat fee of $50,000 or $100,000 a year per route, just to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Smoothly. Okay.
And and that's money that we use to also incentivize drivers. So I'll give you a good example. This fall coming up in Jamaica, Queens, we're launching a new route,
Hmm.
and we've chosen a group of 4 or 5 drivers to kick it off.
Hmm.
Each of those drivers are going to get paid for 2 months in a row, straight out of pocket from the corporation, and then on top of that, they still make $2 per fare from the passengers.
Impressive.
So I think just to get like just give you like ballpark numbers, each driver, but without even picking up one passenger, is guaranteed about $5,000 or $6,000 a month.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, whenever they pick up passengers, which should be about 150 a day,
Hmm.
they'll also be able to make that money as well.
Wow,
So
that's amazing. That's opportunities right there. That's like a major opportunity zone.
for sure, and that's just the beginning. So there's, I don't know, thousands of companies all around New York City that are now more open to using things like commuter vans or dollar vans because they're afraid of the subway, or they want to just they just want to control the experience that their employees have going to the office.
Right. Right.
So dollar vans are the best they're in the best position to take advantage of these opportunities. So we're focused on making sure that drivers benefit from them.
Okay,
Um,
that's a good thing. But there's one thing for sure that the consumer would love to know about the
hmm
dollar ride, because as time has passed, in times past there has been a lot of incidents pertaining to commuter vans and the dollar vans in general. Um, as we have this discussion, we have to make sure we shed light on the safety precautions that will be taken, so that way things like a bus hitting somebody and driving away, and
hmm
the community is not is it's unable to identify the vehicle. Tell us about the safety precautions that you're going to be taking as um, a company that's going to be partnering up with the dollar van industry. What tell us some of the safety precautions that you're going to be taking to make sure that certain incidents don't take place.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up because this is probably the most tricky or challenging part of working in dollar van business or in the dollar van industry because we have we have one group of drivers who are all TLC licensed,
Right.
and therefore they are required to have insurance. They're required to have commercial drivers insurance and a bunch of other qualifications that demonstrate that they are safe drivers, right? So for the
Hmm.
most part, they're doing everything right and they're doing everything above board.
Okay.
But those drivers are in the minority. There's probably at this point maybe at one point I would say there's around 500, but the most recent tally that we've seen is closer to the 250 range. The number of drivers out there who still have a TLC license and are doing everything right. Now, you take that, let's say 250 drivers, compared to about 2,000 drivers who are, private plates or,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call them, renegades, pirates. At the end of the day, these are my peoples anyway. Like
Yeah.
they're
It's all
still
love. It's
family.
all love.
And we know what the game is.
True.
Guys, they're smart. They know that if they get a TLC license, it restricts them. They want to use their vehicle to do trips outside of the city or to
True.
go interstate. So the TLC license does restrict their activity. But at the end of the day, the TLC and the regulators, they're gonna paint the picture that dollar vans are unsafe. So what we have to do is we have to give the consumer, the passenger, the choice. We have to protect the passenger's choice of getting in a vehicle that may or may not have the right paperwork.
Mm.
So I don't want to ever tell a driver, no, you can't work with us or you can't be on our app. I'm really not about that. I want to give everybody the
Okay.
opportunity to make money and to put money in their pockets and to provide for their family. But at the same time, we all got to be responsible, and that means taking care of the passenger.
That's correct.
So what I see is like in the Dollaride app, you might be able to see as a passenger very clearly, this driver has insurance, this driver doesn't. This driver has a TLC license, this driver doesn't. And you let the passenger make his or her own choice. It's essentially what they're doing right now in real life anyway.
That's
You
true.
know, uh, there is a specific way you can tell whether a commuter van is licensed by the TLC or not. They're supposed to have a decal or like a little sticker
Hmm.
on their vehicle. The truth of the matter is that most passengers don't care. They just want to get to where they need to go as
That is
soon as
so true.
possible. And a lot of times, as passengers, we know these drivers personally. So,
That's true
you
as well.
know, we feel relatively safe because we know the people in our community. But as dollar vans expand and we start working with different neighborhoods and different people who aren't from the islands or from West Africa, they're gonna want different things. They're gonna need a certain level of security. So I'm gonna take it upon ourselves at Dollaride to be responsible
Hmm.
by providing transparency. But ultimately, we'll let the passenger make the choice themselves.
I like that response. I like that. So, all right. So let's get back a little bit into the drivers a little bit because there's something I want to there's a subject I want to touch on for a little quick second, just for the viewers to know where I stand with the Dollar Ride company. Because I didn't fail to let them know that I'm deeply involved in the Dollar Ride company as well myself. I may not be a
Mm-hmm.
CEO, but you know, which was one to dream before even Dollar Ride even came into fruition. To be honest with you, like you
That's
know,
true. We talked about this.
right,
You had the first time Aaron and I met. I was very impressed with you, and I got to tell your listeners that because you told me about your ideas for um, creating an app that basically helps dollar vans pick up more passengers, and also other entrepreneurial business ideas that you had. So I already knew from the jump that you were somebody that had a good head on their shoulders, and because of that, we were excited to partner with you and provide a way for us to work together to get more people to know about Dollar Ride. So we're happy to have you part of the family, and we're sure that there's going to be more of us out there that's going to be working with us in the future.
now I hear that. I'm a part of the Dollar Ride family, guys. A part of the Dollar Ride family. I ain't gonna tell you what part I'm at, but I'm a part, definitely. We'll just keep that a secret between me and you, Sue. But yeah, I'm definitely a part though, deeply involved. But let's move forward. There's something I found out about you, man. There's something I found out about you.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, man. Listen. On the respective angle, we do research. All right. We do our research. We find out certain things about certain people. Well, especially for me, like if you're in my circle personally, because you're in my personal circle, so you know that. So at the end of
Yep.
the day, like you have to be 100% valid for you to even end up in my personal circle. Like my circle is that small. So here at the respective angle, we do our research. And we've been researching a little bit, and we found out that this face that you're seeing on the screen, folks, once was, or I can say probably still is, because he probably still got the skills today to pay the bills. Um, he was a football athlete and a very talented one at that. So you want to tell us about that? Quick, fast. Let's segue a little bit off of the dollar ride and go into that because I really wanted to discuss that right there.
Wow.
Yeah. See, I'm pulling. I'm
Yeah.
pulling your. I'm pulling your leg right now, man.
You are. You went deep into the archives to find this because I don't talk about this at all until someone brings it up. But yeah, I used to play football. Uh, you know, I so at one point, when I played little league football from like 10 years old to 13, and I played. There's a league that we have. It's national, but they have a little like regional league called Pop Warner
I've heard
here
about
in New
that.
York.
Yeah, I've heard about
Yeah,
that.
most little kids, who start out playing football early, they'll get involved in a
That's where it
Pop Warner
starts, right?
league. And I played it. I played on a couple of teams in Queens. When I was young, and I always loved football. And at one point, that was my dream to become a football player in the NFL. And I pursued it to the furthest extent that I could.
Hmm.
So I got an opportunity to also play football in college at Boston College,
Wow,
which is a Division I school.
a very
So
prominent school.
yeah, it was a great school. I had a great education, but I have to admit that I had an amazing experience being a college football player at the time where Boston College was ranked number 2 in the country.
Wow.
Um, we had many players who went off to the NFL that I played with, including Matt Ryan, who's a quarterback of the Atlanta
Yeah,
Falcons.
the Falcons. Wow, that's.
Former MVP. He was our quarterback for 5 years.
Hmm.
He's a homie of mine. Someone that I know very well. uh, Matthias Kiwanuka, who's a New York Giant and
Okay.
won a Super Bowl. Will Blackman, who's a really good friend of mine. He also won a Super Bowl with the Giants and maybe even the Packers too.
Wow.
Um, BJ Raji from the Packers. You know, the list goes on and on. I play with a lot of guys who are super talented. Unfortunately, I was not as good as those guys. So my my career ended, you know, in college. I obviously didn't go off to the NFL, but
Mhm.
I definitely pay a lot of respect to the college football experience. It taught me a lot about life and about responsibility and working hard. And you know, the funny thing is, it was my dream as like a 13-year-old to play college football. You know, because I would watch movies and I would see all the parties and the glory and like the experience of winning games and winning a championship.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm so happy and blessed that I experienced all those things, and it was very very surreal to like have your dreams come true. So yeah, that was playing football.
Wow. Well, speaking of working hard, I picked that up right there, man. As I said before, some things that you didn't tell me. These are things that we have discussed on the first time that we spoke, and there's one thing about you that I would say that's a gift that you have, man. Aside from playing football, there's one gift that you possess that if any mature black man or African American or anybody, let's put it across the board. Anyone with this ability will be very successful in life. So I know you rolling in on some dough right now because you touched on the issue, you touched on the subject when we spoke, but I
Hmm.
just didn't know how far how far you went with it. So I did my research, and then my researcher popped up with some a bit of information, and here we go because it's a long list. This is a long list, dude. Or should I just have you? Okay, yeah, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here you are. Here you are, Mr. Sue. So, how old are you, by the way? Let's get this out the way. What's your age, sir?
I turned 36 a couple months ago.
36, young age. 36 years of age. All right. So, you mind sharing with us this long list of activities that you had over your career, buddy? Because I'm just seeing nothing but the greenbacks on you when it comes down to that, bruh.
See,
Fundraising? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, man. Let's get into it.
all right. So I think what Aaron's talking about is like my professional career, like all the different jobs I've had and
Yeah.
experiences I've had. So uh, I'll try to be brief because I have done a lot, I guess, in a short amount of time.
A lot.
Um,
That was a lot, man. And when I say a long list, I could say it was like half a chapter.
so so like my basically I've worked in investment banking. That was one of my first jobs out of college. I worked on Wall Street for about 2 years at an investment bank. Learned a lot about corporate finance and investing, and just general corporate banking.
Mhm.
Then eventually I worked at a software company called the Meltwater Group, where I was a salesperson and
Mhm.
an account manager over the course of 2 years. And that's where I learned a lot about how to sell, how to tell a good story, and also understand what people want and position a product and service to meet their needs. You know, one of the things that I learned that I would encourage anybody who's entrepreneurial is to get a job in sales. When you have to sell a product or a service, and you go through 99 no's just to get to the first yes, it teaches you a lot about entrepreneurship and about building a business and about how to be resilient. So I have to give a shout out to the Meltwater Group and my sales experience there. They really taught me how to build a business because they gave me a lot of responsibility at a young age. Um, so yeah, I worked there, got a lot of sales experience. I eventually started my first company was a company called the All Smiles Media Group, and it was a production company and recording studio that
Wow.
a couple friends of mine, and I started in Harlem. We were young and dumb, but this was probably one of the most fun entrepreneurial business experiences I've ever had because I was working with my friends and we were learning at the same time. And, we ultimately created this recording studio in an apartment building where we took two apartments and we joined them together by knocking down the walls.
Mm. Oh, oh.
Um, I don't even understand why the landlords allowed us to do this
Wow.
because we we did some work. But
That is impressive.
imagine taking
Um,
two bedroom apartments that both had balconies that were conjoined, and you just combine them. Now you have this huge,
huge. Yeah,
massive,
that is big.
yeah. And then we turned that into a recording studio and a production company, where on one side is where we slept, but then on the other side is where
Where
we
you
did all
work.
the work.
Okay.
And we
Smart,
ran
smart.
that operation for 2 years. We worked with easily maybe 2 to 3 dozen different artists, all from Harlem and other areas of New York City. This is way back in the day. So like ASAP Rocky and some of his crew. This is before they were ASAP, but they were still like all homies and like starting up, rapping and doing things like that. They came through the studio. Uh, we had photographers who were working with like Nicki Minaj and other, young artists back in the day. This is way before people blew up.
Yeah.
Um, and then we had like this a whole like cohort of battle rappers who all knew each other, who came to our studio and ended up, recording themselves doing ciphers and things like that. So people like Sirius Jones, uh, um, DNA, um, Charlie Clips, rest in peace. A whole bunch of names that some of you guys might know or might not. But at the end of the day, it was just a great experience. We ultimately uh, recorded music, produced content like videos and radio shows and all this stuff outside, from the studio, and it was an amazing time. But the thing that I learned was that it's really hard to make money in the music and entertainment industry.
Mm.
And we were too young and naive at the time to really understand how to make it into a sustainable business.
Hmm.
So that venture only lasted for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. But I learned a lot, and that was really the first time where I got a taste of what fundraising was like.
Mm.
Um, we at one point towards the end of our venture, a website called Kickstarter
Yeah.
came out.
I know about that website. Hmm.
So this is like 2011, maybe 2012.
Hmm.
Kickstarter started, and at the time, the largest campaign on Kickstarter was only for $200,000. Um, and my colleagues and I, we figured, all right, it looks like these creative people are able to raise money from their friends and from other random people on Kickstarter. How about we help the artists that are coming through the studio raise money to pay for studio time and for the videos and for all the mixtapes and all the things that we're producing for them? Because as artists, a lot of these folks, they don't have money, but they have talent. So we
Right.
just wanted to yeah, we wanted to remove that barrier to unlock their talent.
Hmm.
So we started helping the artists launch fundraising campaigns on Kickstarter.
Wow.
And we did maybe like 5 to 7 campaigns. They all hit their goals, which was like $1,000 here, $2,000 there. But that was where I started getting the idea that fundraising online is really, really powerful, and it is possible if you plan it right.
That's right.
So that was the point in my career where things really started to kick off. So we closed down the studio. I ended up starting another company and working at that company full time. That company was called We Did It, and this was where I was able to use my like experience raising money online to actually build a business around it. So what we did was a software company that was focused on helping nonprofit organizations raise money online. And I was one of the co-founders. I was the CEO, but I had two partners. One guy was an engineer, a software engineer, and the other guy was also a sales and marketing genius. Um, and we ran that business for 8 years, but we started it out of our apartments. I moved in with my roommate, with one of my co-founders, and we got an apartment in Bushwick, and we started literally from our couches, creating the business plan and reaching out to people to get them to check out the software and the website. Um, and from brick by brick, we just built it into a multi-million-dollar company. So from Bushwick, flash forward 8 years, we had 2,000 clients. All were nonprofits all around the country. We helped
Wow.
them raise $60 million a year online
Wow.
through our software. Um, and through that 8 year period, I ended up raising $1.6 million from angel investors and venture capital firms to launch the business.
Mhm.
So it was a learning experience throughout that time, but I definitely got familiar with the investing world and how to raise money from people, and how to use that money to build a bigger opportunity that everybody can enjoy. So I'm proud to say that last year in the summer of June 2019, I was able to sell the business for, I don't know. I'm still under NDA, so I can't say specific numbers, but it was
Mm.
in the
Um. Uh.
it was it was in the eight in the eight figures. Uh,
Wow.
and all my investors and early in employees and my co-founders, we all made some good money on that deal. But it all came from blood, sweat, and tears, but right out of Brooklyn too. So I figured if I could do that, I can definitely do it again with Dollaride and do it bigger and better this time too.
That's a. Well, I guess I ain't buying dollar ride. You gonna sell that for arm and a leg? But
I
you,
got
that's
for Dollaride, I got the billion. That's the next mark.
that's the
So we'll
Billy for
see.
you, man. That's the Billy. All right, I hear you. I hear you. All power to you, man. I like to hear a young African American brother that's just like me. You know what I'm saying? Entrepreneurial, driven, and did the damn thing, man. You did the damn thing. You're still continuing to do it right now. You know what
Still
I'm
doing
saying?
it. It doesn't stop.
It don't stop.
This is just the next chapter.
That's what it is, and that's the reason why I linked up with you because, you know, I place myself around like-minded individuals. You get what I'm saying? You're into business, and you're fully versed in the business. So guess what? You're older than me. I can tell you that for sure. I'm 29. You're 36, which means
All
that
right.
at the end of the day, you have more experience than I do, and I can learn from you along the way. So it's and which I can say freely, I definitely have learned a lot from this man here along the period of time that we have known each other. I can say that for sure. We have definitely broken bread together so far. We've gotten into different. He has definitely provided different business opportunities at my company because I do run a transportation company as well, and I do partner with the Dollar Ride company while I'm running that company. So, I can say for sure Sue is definitely one of the good ones that came out of the bunch. I can't say he made it, but he's damn sure making it. He's damn sure making it. And I can definitely say for sure, you're a good friend of mine that I know for sure that if I call you, it doesn't matter what what you're doing. Sometimes you stop what you're doing, you call me back. Hey, what's up, Aaron? You need something? So that for sure, I can say you're a 100% genuine brother that I can say for sure that you're not about self. You're about building the community. You're about helping others in the community, And that right there, I can say for sure, you are a humanitarian. You deserve a humanitarian award, but you're too young for that. You're too young right now for that. But next
I,
question. One more question. One more question.
sure, sure.
Because 3 years ago I was inducted into the Fathers brand, if you will, or the Brotherhood of the Fathers, and now we can say for sure that we're welcoming you to the Brotherhood of the Fathers. So tell us about that right
Hey,
there. I gotta have the
yeah.
hand claps for that. I ain't got that today, but
Yeah,
yeah.
we gotta get you the DJ horns,
Don't
man.
worry, man. Don't worry.
The the
Today's
dance hall
episode.
horns.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I got you. I'm gonna plug it in right now. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Dollaride, sponsored by the Dollaride. Right, Susani? Yes, it is.
That's a bet. Yo, let's put it. We'll put it in the ether. We'll put it in the air, and
Put it in the air.
it shall it shall become true one day. That's for
That's
sure.
one day. You hear? He's a man of slick words. No, he knows how to choose his words, but it's all good.
But
Um,
so for one, let me see something real quick. I should have mentioned this earlier because you reminded me of other opportunities that drivers should look forward to when working with Dollaride.
mhm.
Um, and when you just mentioned sponsored by Dollaride, that reminded me. Um, you know, every driver who has a vehicle is basically a mobile billboard.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I've seen a few drivers here and there
I didn't know if you
set up,
wanted to talk about that.
set up advertising on their vehicles,
Hmm.
but there's no reason why every driver shouldn't have that opportunity and be able to bring in some additional income. So,
So what's your
we have
idea on
some
that one?
things in the works. Yeah, we got some things in the works where we're trying to facilitate more advertising being displayed on dollar vans. And whenever we bring an opportunity like that to the table, we want to make sure it's a good revenue share opportunity with the driver, where you're going to make more money without doing anything different. So if you can basically rent us space on your vehicle to display ads, we'll obviously make sure you get a healthy cut of the revenue that we're getting from the advertiser. Um,
Hmm. That's a very interesting idea. So what we saying? T-Mobile gonna be advertising. We're gonna have Metro and all everybody.
oh, most def. They're already advertising in the community, so why not on dollar vans?
Okay, so dollar van drivers, if y'all watching this video, which I'm pretty sure you guys are, and pretty sure you guys will be, uh, there are definitely a lot of opportunities at Dollar Ride. That's the plug right now. There are definitely a lot of opportunities at Dollar Ride. Come on in, guys. Come on in. But don't worry, I'll be out there very shortly, very soon, campaigning. But go ahead, Susan.
Word. So, yeah, I've become a father as of recent. So, I'm joining the club with you, Aaron, and probably many of the other listeners. Uh, I had my first son in March this year, literally right before the whole coronavirus, was at our doorsteps.
Right.
So, it was pretty crazy to like go into the hospital with my wife and then
How was that
not watch.
experience?
It was nuts because we only kind of heard. I think like we didn't think that the virus was already in New York by that time.
Right.
We were watching the news a little bit, but it didn't seem like this was something that we were going to deal with in New York City as badly as we did. And um, so to us, we thought, all right, this is still a distant thing. There's something going on in Wuhan, China, but it wasn't in the U.S. yet. So we go to the hospital. At the hospital, they're telling people that because there's this virus thing, we're only allowing one family member besides the patient to be in the hospital with you. So, imagine going through the whole birth and delivery process, but you can't have your mom or your parents or your family and friends come visit you at the hospital. So
Right.
that was one thing that was pretty weird. But then, we spent 2 days in the hospital not watching TV at all.
Right.
So I remember turning the TV on and seeing that the it looked like the damn whole world just turned upside down. The NBA canceled the season.
Hmm.
Um, Flights had been all shut down,
Yep.
and then I see the governor making his announcement about, we're going to move into shelter in place, and people, need to do this and that. And I was like, yo, what happened over the last 48 hours? So, I had one of my cousins, actually, he called me. He was like, yo, have you been watching the TV? And I was like, nah, man, we've been in the hospital, focused on the delivery. He's like, all right, well, I don't want to scare you, but just know that everything's going to be okay. Don't watch the TV too much, because it's probably going to make you freak out more than you need to. But
True.
we are going through a pandemic, and it's more serious than we thought it would be. But just hold your head. Everything will be all right, and we'll see you when you guys get home. And that was like our whole introduction to, like, bringing a child into this world during a pandemic. But I'm fortunate and blessed to say that my wife is doing fine, my baby's
Yeah.
doing fine. I had a baby boy,
That's great, man. Congratulations,
and
man.
thank you, man, thank you. So he's 5 months old now. He's healthy. He's doing great, and I'm happy that everything worked out as it did.
I'm glad myself. That's great. That is a great thing to hear because, even in these coronavirus times, we're hearing about a lot of people losing their life, a lot of
Yeah.
mothers losing their children, which was like it was like a very crazy thing because every time I go on my Facebook or something, like I see somebody lose their child and lose the mother of the child and stuff like that. So
Tell me about
I'm
it.
I am so elated that you know you and your wife and even the newborn, all of you guys are fine and you're blessed to be in the land of the living. And there's more to come for you, man. So
I
I am so
appreciate that,
glad.
brother. It's definitely scary times, but let me ask you a question. Like, how have you and your lady and your, I believe you have a son, right?
Yeah,
Yep, yep. So how have y'all dealt with, you know, for one, probably being cooped up in the house together, near damn near 24/7 for the last few months? How have things been in your household?
well, hmm. Well, it starts like this. It started around March, where everything started to shut down. Between me and you, I have a couple of contracts with my business that entails with transportation, and that has to do with, transporting children. And around
Mm-hmm.
that time, I enjoy my job. Like, I have my employees, and they do their job every day. I don't have any problems with the schools or anything like that. And to enjoy a job like that and to have to just stop right away because of a pandemic, you know what I'm saying? So that
Mm-hmm.
was one mental toll in itself because here it is. I have a business that's been open for about 2 years, and you know everything is just uncertain now because one day I'm working and one day my employees is working, and the next day we're told, yo, we're gonna shut down until not even a time or a day when we're starting back. It's just an uncertain time. So I had
Right.
to deal with that mentally and still have to come back home to, well, my wife, she's an essential worker, so she didn't really, it didn't affect her as much. So she was constant with work because she's in the
Shout
medical field.
and shout out to all the essential workers
Yeah, shout outs to you
right
guys
now.
because you guys did a lot over these last couple of months. Especially when things were very crazy and we didn't know what was going on, and a lot of people were just passing. So shout out to you guys for real. So dealing with that just like on the mental part for me, it was like mind blowing, it was crushing. So I'm a Christian, so at the end of the day, I just had to just ease back myself on into that hand of God, and He just told me, listen, everything's gonna be all right. Because
Mm-hmm.
I listen to God. God speaks to me all the time. And what He told me at that time, He said, listen, because the day I got the phone call, the principal called me. She said, Aaron, I love how you guys work, but it's just the fact that we have to close down because the governor is stating that everything has to be a shelter in place. So I received that phone call and I was freaking out. I was like, yo, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So God told me straight up, listen, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. You have your little savings there. You know, just furlough your workers and just give them a little. What I did was I gave them a little package that would at least hold them down for at least 2 months because I had
Mhm.
enough that I saved up. So I gave them that in hopes that 2 months later we're gonna be all right. But that wasn't the case, and thank God, thank God for the different provisions that the government provided to where I was able to pay my employees during the COVID-19. So for anyone that's out there that you know wants to work for a company that will pay you guys through a pandemic, James Empire Express. But
Yeah,
going
holla at
forward,
James Empire Express for real.
yeah, we made sure that our employees, all four, were paid during the COVID-19 um, pandemic, and they're still paid now. They're starting to work now, so that's neither here nor there. But answering your question, in the house, oh my gosh. First of
Another
all, I have a
crisis.
3-year-old and a 13-year-old. 13 and 3. Okay?
Oh wow.
Yes. Every
Damn.
day. I love
Both
them.
ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, those ends of the spectrum. Like, you know, now coming out of terrible twos into terrible threes because I don't believe that terrible twos end at two. So just, it's a word to the wise for you, for your little boy. At two, it's gonna start, and then it goes right into three. And I don't know about four because I ain't reached there yet. I'll let you know when that time comes. But you know, it's been a headache. It's been a loving headache though, because I love my boys. I love my sons. I love them to death. Like I'll go to the end of the world and back for them. Although they had me over the, I didn't get any grays. Yeah, you looking, Sue? I didn't get any gray hairs though. So I made it.
Yeah,
That's the point. I made it
yeah,
through it.
you doing well there. You doing
Yep.
real well there.
I made it through it, bro. So that's as long as I didn't get no grays. That's all that matters. Although the stress was like up there with these two children, but I love them anyway, and I was able to deal with them. And one's about to go back to partial schooling, and the 3-year-old, he's gonna be in a control group in a daycare where it's gonna be fully monitored, and the kids are gonna be, you know, always checked on an everyday basis via city guidelines. So it was fun. I could say that. That's my answer. It was fun. It was interesting and fun.
Man,
Interesting
that's
because the mere fact that you're able to spend time with a 13-year-old, because it's not normal that you spend every day of the week with your child.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So this was an opportunity for families and fathers and mothers and even single mothers to be able to get closer to their children, and that's what happened with me. I was able to get closer with my 3-year-old. I was able to get closer with my 13-year-old. So it was some good benefits out of that. So, although it was a hair puller, it was all right. My hair didn't really come out. It stayed intact.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you for sharing that. You definitely took a good, positive attitude throughout this experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's tough out there for the families, people working from home, and you got your babies and your dog and the cat and the little kids running around while you're trying to take Zoom calls.
All
So
that.
shout out to everybody who's holding it down and just trying to stay positive through this difficult time.
Really, really for real. And so when it comes down to Dollaride, let's just end on this note. So with Dollaride, so let me just ask you this one question, and I'll let
Hmm.
you go because I'm holding you hostage right now. I know you got a little meeting. I know you got a little money meeting coming up just now. But with Dollaride, like all in all, what's like what's your how do I put this? What's your the big picture hope for you? Like, what do you hope to accomplish in the big picture?
I'm glad you asked that. So I hope this answer is not too, how can I say, like too detailed. Because I do want people to feel like Dollar Ride is approachable, and that we're down to earth, and that we're here for them, and we can meet drivers, especially where they are. But at the same time, as a businessman, I have to be really, really clear about our vision and how everybody can be a part of it. Um, and to me, it's simple as math. This is not like some pie in the sky dream, and I'm trying to sell people, on some idea where they might get screwed over or not. Like, it's really not that at all. It's just basic math.
Right.
Currently, right now in New York City, we have 600,000 people. That's 600,000 people. More than a half a million New Yorkers live in transit deserts. A transit desert is basically a place that has shitty access to transportation. Part of my
Woo!
français, my
YouTube.
French.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Make sure my monetization don't go nowhere. Don't touch that. But it's all good though because
This is real
this
talk.
episode is brought to you once again by the Dollaride Incorporated. Continue, my friend.
So a transit desert is a place where people have remarkably limited access to public transit.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those of us, if you're familiar with Jamaica Queens, there aren't subways when you get past a certain point in Jamaica Queens. The subway just doesn't go there.
That's true.
In Flatbush, you got similar areas. The subway just doesn't travel, or even if there's a bus, the bus is always overcrowded, or it comes in infrequently. So, in these areas in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, especially, damn near all of Staten Island, you have severe transit deserts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because of that, you have 600,000 people who could be potential passengers of dollar vans. Now, today, of that 600,000, only about 100,000 people take dollar vans every day.
Hmm.
At least pre-COVID. Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, of
So if you,
course.
so if you do the math, 600,000 minus 100,000 is 500,000.
Right.
So that means that for anybody who's doing dollar van business right now, any driver, the market that you're in could literally be 5 times bigger than what it is right now.
Mm.
If you think you're making money right now, you potentially could be making 5 times as much money if you play your cards right.
Let them know. Let them know.
So that's the basic math of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make sure that drivers are put in the right position so that they can capture the market of 600,000 people instead of 100,000 people.
Mm.
So, my vision for Dollaride is for us to remain a technology company, but we're going to use our technology to empower drivers to get the bag, to get more passengers in their vehicles, and to grow their own mini businesses. I watched my uncles, in the 80s and the 90s hustle every single day, coming home with wads of $1 bills to pay their light bill and to send their kids to school. But now, flash forward, they have fleets of drivers who work for them. They have coach buses. They've been able to buy property. They've been able to send their kids to college. They own real estate in New York.
That's correct.
So, and they're immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're immigrants just like all the rest of us.
All of us. That's right.
So there's no reason why, those of us on Flatbush and on Utica and, and on Remsen and then, Guy Brewer and Merrick Boulevard, there's no reason why we all can't get the bag if the market is 5 times bigger than what it really, than what we think it is right now.
Right.
So, to me, if you're a driver today, you should be a fleet owner tomorrow,
True.
and Dollaride will help you get there. That's the vision that I have.
Okay. That is, listen, that couldn't be more explained so in depth. It couldn't have been explained any more clearer. Like, I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. It's pretty much to maximize the pockets of the drivers, whether you're on Flatbush, Utica, Queens, wherever it is. Dollaride is here to assist you. And closing off, man, it's been a pleasure to talk to my friend, because I could call you my friend. As I told you earlier, I could call you my friend, man. You're my friend.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you, my friend Sue. Um, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the Respective Angle Show. Hope to see you again here once again on the Respective Angle Show. This will not be your first time. The first time you're a visitor. The second time, you know what they say. Your family. So it's you're going to be automatically inducted to the Respective Angle Show, Hall of Fame somewhere down the lines when we get there. But it's been a pleasure definitely chopping it up with you, on my first official interview. I didn't tell you that, did I? But this is the first official interview on the Respective Angle Show. It's been tough, trying to get everything together, trying to see exactly what subjects I'm going to be speaking on. And now I believe I found my niche. So moving forward, this has been the Respective Angle Show. This is AJ is Live. You have had the pleasure of having the CEO of one of the CEOs of the Dollaride Corporation on the line with us, and to explain what the Dollaride app is about, what it entails, the the safety of the app, the safety of the drivers and how they operate, and pretty much all the details there is to know, or there needs to be spoken of about this guy here, Mr. Susani. So we don't know who he is. We know what he's about. We know that he's not here to take over the dollar van industry, but to assist the dollar van industry in any way that he can possible. So,
Absolutely. In fact, I want to give the dollar van industry superpowers. Let's say that. But no, Aaron, I appreciate the time. This was a pleasure. I'd love to come back on the show in the future. So you got my number. You can hit me up anytime. And for anybody who's interested, you can check out Dollaride on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just we're at Dollaride on all of those platforms. And also, our website is dollaride.com, DOLLARIDE.com. We're currently running a fundraising campaign where if you are interested in even becoming an investor in our technology business, you can do that too for as little as $100.
that's a small buy-in.
Yep. And everybody who invests, even as little as $100, is going to be a part of the ride and a part of the journey that we go through building this company into a multi-billion-dollar business. So
Folks, take the
I welcome you.
opportunity. Take the opportunity to invest in this company. It starts at a little small cost of $100. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not small at these times that we're talking, but when things it comes into itself. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to afford the $100. So get yourself invested in this company, because I feel there's going to be a very reputable return out of that investment. What do you say, Sue?
I would say that as well. If you check my track record,
Trust me.
I'm a man of my word, a man of my
Mm-hmm.
business. But it's a no-brainer because
Facts.
what we're doing is needed. The dollar van drivers in the community has already spoken, and they've already shown that transportation is not where it needs to be in New York City. That's the reason why we have dollar vans.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, the same thing is happening all around the country in major cities. So if we can get it right here in New York, we can make it right everywhere, and really make transit deserts a thing of the past. So check out the campaign. If you go to our website, you'll see a link to it. It's on a website called Republic. We've already raised I think over 100 grand in the last couple of weeks. So I encourage all you guys to check it out. Share it if you don't want to invest. But yeah, let the people know that here's an opportunity to get involved with a tech company that's doing good things and doing things for the community too.
Well, that's we would definitely make sure and plug that in there, and we'll put that up on our social media accounts. That is definitely at the Respective Angle Show. We're the one and only Respective Angle Show. You can go anywhere, wherever. You can go on Google, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, and type in the Respective Angle Show, and boop, there we go. We're popping up right in front of your face. There is no other shows that is named the Respective Angle Show. So once you type in that Respective Angle Show, we're gonna pop up regardless. So again, Sue, it's been a pleasure to be on the phone with you and to understand the Dollaride app and to understand who you are. All right, so it's been a pleasure, and we're gonna call that a wrap.
Thank you, Aaron. Peace out.